I remember I had colleagues when I worked in the borough, and I say, "Oh, did you see the new? They put in the new bike lane on this street, or on Notre Dame they finished the plaza." And they're like, "Oh no, I've never been." It was it was like 2 blocks away, and they just went straight from.
And that's
their
your
cars.
project, and you've never been on site
Yeah.
to just go see what the reality is like.
Exactly.
It blows my mind.
Have you been thinking about buying your first rental property for some time, or do you already own a bunch of properties? Well, fellow investors, you found the right location to listen and learn from others' successes. Welcome to The Very Real Estate Effect with your host, Axel Mont-Saint-Jean.
Hello, and welcome back to the Very Real Estate Effect podcast, a show dedicated to real estate investing. And right now we're in Montreal, Quebec. Today I'd like to welcome Jeffrey Kirton, who's an urbanist and real estate investor. Hi, Jeffrey.
Hi, Axel. Thanks for having me on the show. I've really enjoyed listening to your podcast. Really good advice for investors.
I'm really excited that you're here. As a real estate investor and as an urbanist, you have tons to share. We've gone for drinks before. We've chatted about projects, and I'm really excited to share this conversation with everybody who's listening. And before we get into it, one thing that's really interesting is that a lot of people who listen to the show have yet to subscribe. And that's one way that you can really help us reach more people like yourself and help me continue to get great guests and get some great conversations out there so you can learn from it. So please, and that's the only thing I'll ever ask you, is subscribe to the show, share it with a friend who could benefit from this conversation so we can keep reaching more people throughout Quebec and North America to talk about fun real estate topics. And today is one of them. And so Jeffrey's got great expertise in urbanism, and you became a real estate investor, and we're going to dive into the story. But first of all, how in the world did you get started? Did you wake up one day thinking you'd be an urbanist and work for the city eventually?
That's a good question. At first, it was kind of just through traveling, and I had visited a lot of countries and everything throughout my life. And after school, I wanted to get into more something like civil engineering, building bridges. I always dreamed of building a tower or a bridge to have something physical to tangible that you had built.
Yeah.
And I kind of fell into architecture. My first courses I took in university were in that sense. And I had this one course in architecture about the built environments that they had a slideshow called The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And they would show cities like Venice, Siena, New York, Chicago, Montreal. And then the bad was kind of like mediocre suburbs, and then the ugly was just like these strip mall messes. And it was kind of, how do we get there as a society? Why can't we build these great places anymore? What's gone wrong? At the same time, around 19, I fell into playing online poker. Just started playing with some buddies. It became pretty profitable, and I wasn't too into school at the time, more having fun, making lots of cash. So I ended up buying a ticket to Europe and a Eurail pass. And
Nice. With the poker money?
with the poker money, yeah.
Good
of course.
call.
And it was a great trip. It just totally changed my life, and even further entrenched. I was like, wow, they really get it here in Europe. I would go to cities
very
like
different.
Paris, Barcelona, and I came back to my suburb of Winnipeg, where I lived in grilling hot dogs in the backyard, strip malls. Which, as I'm getting older, I've kind of started to more reappreciate North American urbanism a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, at the time, so I wasn't studying, but still reading every day, reading blogs, Twitter, going around exploring neighborhoods, always into that. So. One day I got a one-way ticket to Vegas to really go full-time as a poker player live, and it went terrible. I lost every single day for a week or two, and I said, you know what, this is...
So you got another one-way back?
Yeah, exactly. I even had a blog and all these people following me on a site called 2+2, which is a forum for cards. And then I said, you know what, I want to make a contribution with my work. When you're playing poker, you're just taking money from...
You're in it for yourself.
Yeah, it's a zero-sum game, even negative sum because...
Yeah, because you lost.
Yeah. So I went back, signed up for school in Montreal at Concordia, their urban planning program. And I went there, finished my degree, did some internships at the city, had to kind of gradually work my way up. It was kind of hard to find a job in Montreal at the time, so I did an internship in Calgary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Way different vibe than Montreal.
How so? Yeah, from working for the city point of view, very different vibe.
In multiple ways. So they're almost all the city staff are in one building. In Montreal, you have
It's spread over
boroughs,
the boroughs.
you have La Ville Centre,
Yeah,
different divisions. And also to get a job as an urbanist, there's no, I mean, it's a very important job because you're planning a city. So they're not going to give the keys to the city to some guy fresh out of school and say, hey, make a master plan for our neighborhood.
Go design a neighborhood.
Yeah. But in Calgary, they had like this whole pipeline, whether it be in terms of like for developers to come in. Okay, you go to this kiosk, you want preliminary information, you just show up with plans. You take a number within 5 minutes, you can see people, and then you can see a city planner if you need more detailed information. And then for the employees, they had internships, planner 1, planner 2, senior planner.
Okay.
Like so.
You worked up the food chain as your experience grew.
That's how it was structured in Calgary. But as I said in Montreal, it was actually more directement a job like that you need 2, 3, 4 years experience. So I did another internship in Montreal in Ville-Marie, and I got my first job at Saint Henry as a commissaire au développement économique adjoint with Marie-André L'Espérance was the commissaire. Great person. She works at the OCPM now.
Okay.
We're here today. We're on Notre Dame Street. I knew every single store owner. That was kind of commercial vitality was my main mandate, and ensuring that the city planning around commercial streets went really well. Mixed uses. They made bylaws. That, at one point they banned restaurants because of gentrification. So I was kind of the guy. I would go walk up and down Notre Dame and look at the vacancy rates, turnover rates. And I did eventually get, I don't know if jaded is the right word, but when you're a city planner in the city of Montreal, in my opinion, it feels like you're kind of in a sandwich between two people.
The developer and the city? The developer et les habitants?
The developer and les élus. The politicians.
Yeah.
The politicians is, they're chosen by the people. They get to enact laws and everything. And then the developers, they have the financial strength to say we want to redo this neighborhood or build this building. And then in the middle of that, you have city planners like, okay, Jeffrey, write a new bylaw about this, and how many meters away should one restaurant be from another?
Oh, God.
And kind of in the technical thing.
Yeah.
Very informative, very interesting, and there's a lot of people who at the city who are passionate and do really good work, but there are a lot as well who don't.
Yeah.
I kind of blame it on, they have these things called a dichotomy between, at the Ville de Montréal, you're either a professionnel or a col blanc. So a col blanc, let's say...
Is that more of the trades?
No, that's a col bleu. There's about 4 or 5 different levels.
Okay.
Like in planning, for
Interesting.
example.
And so what does urbanism and planning fall into that would have been your category?
Yeah, both. I was professionnel.
Okay.
You needed a university degree. But the people actually doing the permits who were, let's say if it's by rights and you just want to enlarge your patio or get a permit, that's col blanc. And they're kind of, they'll never be able to move up or anything. So they get this kind of like imagine telling someone you're going to work here for 30 years, but you're never going to be able to.
You're never going to go up.
Get the job that this junior who's 23 years old.
Yeah, and their role is kind of make sure it's conform. I say they have a checklist and they need to tick the boxes, and if yes, they can stamp it.
Yeah,
and then there's not much thinking involved.
Exactly. And in Montreal, there's a lot of complaints about when there's a construction site. Store owners know about this. Like Les Cônes Orange, Montreal, let's say it's our logo. The people who give the permits to give the Cônes Orange, they're sitting in front of this computer. A lot of them, I was like,
they haven't gone on site.
They haven't gone on site. A lot of them live off the islands.
Yeah.
Far from Montreal. They don't live the reality. I remember I had colleagues when I worked in the borough, and I say, oh, did you see the new, they put in the new bike lane on this street, or on Notre Dame, they finished the plaza, and they're like, oh, no, I've never been. It was like 2 blocks away, and they just went straight from
And that's your project, and you've never been on site to just go see what the reality is like. Exactly. It blows my mind.
So I did that for a while. I worked for a planning firm called BC2.
Yeah.
I worked with...
And that's an urbanism firm.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
one of the, probably the
Biggest,
in
yeah.
Quebec. Very like high energy, good at doing plans and everything. Véronique Alpin actually was my boss, and
Okay.
she's now, I think, the vice president of development at Groupe Mac.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's they're doing tons of huge projects. At the
Yeah,
moment.
massive.
After that, I worked for... and then I went back to the city to be a commissaire au développement économique, but this time in the plateau.
Okay.
Totally different vibe than the Sud-Ouest. Like,
In what way was it different?
like Benoit Doré, he used to be a store owner, so he really kind of connected with the store owners. They actually cared sincerely, and Craig Sauvé as well. And they would make bylaws or bike paths, but they cared about local businesses. And
Yeah.
maybe it's more of an Anglo-Saxon culture where store owners, it's not like we don't have to fight against them. Whereas in the plateau, we're gonna make a one-way. We're gonna take out all the parking, and you're gonna shut your mouth.
Yeah, basically you don't have the choice, and that's just the way it is. And when those people complain, I mean, I'll just make a bracket, but it reminds me of when the Saint-Denis Street was redone. Oh, we need to widen, we need to do bike path and stuff.
Yeah.
That's great and dandy. It's just that it took 2.5 years and it killed half of the businesses. Remember, like the amount of
The
vacancy
construction
there
did,
was.
but the bike path was actually kind of a success, in my opinion.
Yes, but that took 3 years.
Yeah.
But during the construction period, I remember driving through at some point, one store out of two was closed and shut down vacant.
But I think one thing that happened, c'est un artère principal, so it's the ville centre who controls it. So I think the first time it got redone, Denis Coderre was in power, and
Okay.
then when they did the bike path, Projet Montréal was controlling the ville centre.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the other unfortunate thing. If you go down Rue Brébeuf, next to Parc Laurier, they completely redid this bike path. There was a bit of a scandal because Denis Coderre made the sidewalk 2 feet wide, but there was a sidewalk on the other side of the street. There was a bike path, and then in the park, parallel to it, there was a walking path. So he was like,
Okay.
I don't need to invest.
Yeah. Fair
Let's just
enough.
get it done. And that was Denis' style. He would just, let's go full steam ahead. And
Yeah.
then 1 or 2 years later, the first thing Projet Montréal did when they got elected,
Rip it all out.
rip it up, redo it again, 2 years of construction. And then it's beautiful. They planted trees and everything, but man,
Yeah.
we waited at least 8 years and maybe...
So you saw a lot of that when you went back to the city after BC2, you said?
Yeah, it was a short time. It was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And after my paternity leave, so I had my first daughter. In
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, COVID baby. So it was nice. We had zero FOMO because everybody was at home.
Because you were there.
Yeah, and then real estate always interested me. At the city side, I had seen developers come. I was like, oh, it's cool what they're doing. And then also BC2, our clients were developers, so they were a non-profit real estate developer consultant. So what they would do, they don't say clients, they would say like a partner, but let's say Roi des Femmes, Old Mission Brewery.
Okay.
They just opened one Place 10 Equip that my former employer, Groupe CDH, managed. And so they're kind of like a GP, if you will, and like a project manager.
So they participate in the development, and their participation share is their expertise?
Exact. And they
Okay.
do almost everything and the clients, they get to focus on their operations. So let's say someone that takes in refugees and immigrants and they're, doing campaigns and sales, they don't necessarily know how to look at a
house them.
geotechnical study.
Yeah.
They do have, they take part, they're in CC, they can, choose the colors of the building. And
So wait, I just want to make it clear. So that organization is helping other groups who have basically housing needs, and they bring in their expertise in development, as you said, to read les rapports géotechniques.
Yeah, do
so
city
that
planning.
whereas those organizations, they come to you and they say, look, I need 150 rooms to house some refugees.
Exactly.
Is that kind of how it worked?
And they'll, but you have to be in a lot of places at once because okay, the CMHC just announced this new rapid housing initiative.
Yeah.
So we look at it. We have a lot of sites that we're looking at the same time, whether it be centris or off market.
Yeah.
And say, okay, this program with this group on this site, that's a match. We'll do a preliminary analysis, pitch it to them.
Yeah.
Do the funding request, and yeah, we were just kind of and they get, I think, let's say 2% of the construction costs, kind of like a project manager in private real estate.
Management fee. That's interesting. That's a good. It's a good way to position it, because hopefully they create as many optimal situations between, as you said, the program, the site, and the client's needs.
Yeah, and it's super interesting because now any big developments you see, around Bridge Wellington, Molson, all the Esplanade Quartier, all these things have like a social housing
components. Yeah.
So they're like, okay, well, and you're gonna get one of these sites. There was a bit of politics involved because which group is going to get the site, or which GRT. That GRT is like the project managers. There was a few of them that would kind of fight over territories and everything, but it was good. One issue, it's a nonprofit, and I don't know if it's like a Quebec thing, but there was a kind of a thing like, we can't give you the same conditions that you would get in the private sector. So a lot of people after 3-4 years, they leave. I have so much respect for my colleagues who are still there, still doing this noble work. But I'll tell you, like, you see them 4 years later, they had black hair 4 years prior,
and now
their hair is all gray, because you just get so many bâtons dans les rues all the time, and it's really tough work. So between that and I wouldn't say burnout, but I saw it coming and kind of wanted to do something.
You were proactive.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
I read a really good book called La Révolte des Premiers de la Classe, and it was about how all these VP finances, marketing, whatever, how they would quit their job and open
a bakery.
Yeah, bakery.
Yeah.
To do something.
Yeah.
And what they said was, in too many jobs today, you're too far away from the end product.
Yeah.
And city planning has to be the worst job.
Yeah, because I bet, and some people, as you said, they never go on site and they've never actually spoken to the user or the clients.
Yeah.
And they make all these decisions behind their desk, but they actually don't go on site.
Yeah, that's one issue. The other one is, let's say you do long range planning, you sit at a public consultation and you're doing a 25-year plan. Like me, my personality, so what I did, I quit my job.
Yeah.
I bought a piece of raw land in Vermont. It was a really good deal. I wanted to go
Vermont, just on the other side of the border?
like touching the border.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. There's
And
actually,
why over there specifically?
it was a good question. I had gone there to the eastern townships during COVID to kind of get some air, rent a chalet here and there. And I wanted to just buy land and build a cabin. And I looked, and it was like $250,000 for 4 acres.
On the Canadian side, and yet on the US side.
And then I say, hey, what if
I just cross the border?
And I just open this website, Landwatch, and I'm like, what? And there's 10 acres for $60,000.
A quarter. Oh, wow.
And so 2-3 times the size of the lands for a quarter of the price, like 8 times cheaper. So
and it is the same land. It's 10 kilometers away. It's same
thing, yeah. And
wow,
like, I actually, when I go, I get the Canadian cell network.
okay, that's convenient. It's actually.
So I bought this cabin kit from a company called Bunky Life.
Yeah,
really cool.
Yeah, I've seen them on social media.
Okay. Bought it. Like I can't even put IKEA furniture together. And my wife was like, "Are you sure?" And
you can't put IKEA. Yeah, you can. I mean, come on.
I can't do it without bickering with my
with your. Oh, okay. I was gonna say with yourself.
Yeah, or myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to maybe go a bit too quick. Who knows? So I bought the kit, shipped it over. No company was willing to ship it. Okay, find solutions. Rent a truck, buy a remorque, drive the remorque after Toronto, drive back. It took me, I think it was like 22 hours all in all to get it. Built it with my friends, and then it was tough because it was like step one, build a foundation. But I met a really nice neighbor who helped me out. And then once it started going, after a few months, it was built, and yeah, it cost $15,000 for the kit.
Wow.
All in all, with the exchange and everything, it was 120,000 Canadian. Like, how can I lose
for the land and the cabin?
Land, cabin, foundation, main d'oeuvre, toilets,
two.
patio, all
Wow.
in. I made a spreadsheet, and then in the first year, I put it on Airbnb, and I was like, all right, we'll see. And like, it wasn't really ready, but kind of. I had a friend who did the interior design, so that helped. And then people came and they loved it, kept getting 5-star reviews. I had bankers from Manhattan coming there to
go to the tiny cabin in the woods.
Yeah,
they want to unplug. There's demand for this.
Yeah. And it's not Richford where it is. It's not a cute town. I mean, sorry, it's got a little bit of potential, but it's not like Stowe or these other the Vermont. You imagine it's a bit more
it's a bit more rustic.
Let's say. So that went super well. Also, I didn't mention the year prior, I bought a triplex, 415,000 for 3 units. So
where was that located?
Farnham.
Okay.
Yeah. So my idea was is at the beginning of Estrie, my investment thesis was that with télétravail, with remote work, it would become a place that's a bit viable, 1 to 2 days.
For sure.
50 minutes away. And the rents were,
comparable.
Couldn't go down, and they were paying like 700 like at the time. So my tenants were living in a nicer place than me.
Than you living in Montreal for higher rent. And
Well, I had a good rent. It was pretty affordable in the plateau, nice landlord. And so yeah, we ended up just putting a curtain in our double salon.
Yeah.
And the baby was on one side of the curtain, we were on the other side, but it was happy times, and it worked out. A year later, asked the bank to refinance it, and they said it was worth 685.
Nice. So from 400 to 685?
Yeah.
Within a 1 year period? Woo!
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And it's just, I bet since then the growth has slowed.
Yeah.
Which is normal and understandable. I mean, you can't double every 2 years.
No,
it'd be nice.
Yeah. But actually, yeah. So some people say real estate is, why would I invest in real estate when I can just buy the S&P 500 and make 12%? But
that's a great question. But
when you think about your cash on cash return, I invested 85,000 because it was just the down payments. And then all of a sudden, I can't do the quick math, but let's say I had all of a sudden made 240,000
in equity.
In equity that increased.
Yeah.
So that's a 300% increase.
Yeah. And especially if you're able to refinance, you're actually able to take out that capital.
Exactly.
And it's not just on paper. Yeah. So it's a little bit more tangible and usable for you to scale.
Exact. So that allowed me to do my next projects. I bought a house in Chambly. Kind of went with a theory where they say, buy the ugliest house on the best block.
Nice. Yeah.
Very ugly building. But
perfect. That's how you create the most value.
Yeah.
And what's the play over there?
The city had recently legalized ADUs, accessory dwelling units, granny suites. There's different terms.
So just for those who don't know and who are listening, so this is when all of a sudden the city allows you to add a small dwelling on the lots, whether it's downstairs, whether it's in the back. If it's in the back, I'll just call it a tiny house. Whether it's a tiny house or not, it's completely different. But that means that you go from, let's say, 1 dwelling to 2 dwellings on your lot.
Yeah. So when you're penciling out the numbers, for example, I'm looking at it maybe, let's say next year, if I'm going to add it, there's no land. Your land cost is $0.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
you've already bought
it's just the cost of construction, and you're renting it, and you're getting more or less the same rent.
Yeah.
There might be a bit of negotiation with the person renting the house. It might reduce by 10%, but I think it's kind of gradual, missing middle, infill.
Yeah.
It'll bring in someone new, semi-affordable units, and someone who can go support the little shops that are around the streets. And so
you at some point you transitioned to investing yourself, and you bought several properties. You started with the land and added the cabin, then the triplex, the house in Chambly. I think even since then you also you bought a sixplex recently.
Yeah, exactly.
And so how did your professional experience help you as an investor?
It's a good question. You always look at the zoning before you're ever looking at a property, like right away. So for a lot of properties, it would be identify what can I do?
Yeah.
What is the upside? When I look at land now, usually the order I kind of do things. First, get an idea of what's the zoning, not like little details like setbacks and architecture, but just what kind of uses,
density,
how many stories.
Yeah. And that's something that, I mean, we would recommend to any real estate investor who's considering anything is go look at what you can do with it.
Yeah, exactly. What I do now, I use an iPad and I use Procreate, it's kind of like a sketch with an iPad. Apple Pencil.
Yeah.
And I download a picture of the lots and I draw on it by hands because it just feels like my brain is so much more fluid. So I'll do that. I'll do some napkin math and know, okay, what kind of project, what it's going to look like. And then after that, I'll put it into SketchUp, which I'll give the exact dimensions and then the number of stories you can move around, get 3D views. Take those stats, put it into a pro forma, look at the average rents in the area. What's the tax rate in this municipality? There's crazy things you stumble upon, like in Bedford, it's $1.7 million project and the permit costs $700.
Wow.
Yeah. Whereas
to dream here.
In Montreal, at Pépé-Saint-Moi is like, just to look at your file, it's like 20,000 or something.
Yeah.
So
it's not the same. And it really does feel like here we have a lot of blockers at every level and a lot of them coming from the city. As we're wrapping up, what would be one thing you'd recommend to real estate investors as they are looking at a new property?
Think about, I would say 3 things. One, think about how long it's going to take you to get your permits and build it. Because when you have money invested, that's a huge factor.
Yeah, the carrying cost.
If you're going to be paying taxes and interest for 3 years, it's got to pencil out and you have to take that into account. Number 2, look at a market where there's less downside risk and more upside risk. So a place that's kind of, I don't know, look for a neighborhood where there's some cool new shops opening up that haven't been some town,
up and coming neighborhood.
Yeah. Like the place where people come back 10 years later and be like, when I was a kid, you'd never have.
There was nothing here.
There wasn't these oat milk lattes or whatever. Anyways, but that's a good sign. And I would say the last one is try to aim for a simple, efficient construction. Nothing where you're going to be, especially if you don't have experience with it, but something that, you can build beautiful buildings, maybe wood brick. That's more of my style. Something that you can control a little bit better and have more certainty. And that's what I would say.
And really understand your lot. And you mentioned it earlier. It's so important to really understand what is it that you can do on that land, because that's the basis of urbanism and how you can find gems.
Exactly.
And then take a bit of risk. So Jeffrey, thank you very much for coming on the show and sharing your journey as an urbanist, as an investor. Thanks a lot for having me on. It's been a pleasure. It's the first podcast in my life, but I think it went pretty well and I enjoyed the experience. Yeah, so it's really fun. Chatting more. And the point of all this is just for us to share our conversation with other people, because there's hundreds of them who will benefit from the experience that you've accumulated. Yeah, I think I don't see myself as a big investor. So a lot of people who are thinking about making their first offer, buying their first property, maybe it's overwhelming to have tenants. I would say just, take the plunge, go into it and do your due diligence. But it's a really interesting field to be in is real estate. It's really exciting. Yeah. It's really exciting. You're right. To all those who are listening, thank you for making it until the end. And stay tuned. We'll have some more fun episodes. And Jeffrey is going to share his experience next week on a bunch of very important things that you need to know. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thanks for coming on the show. And to all of you who are listening, as usual, keep researching your market and make some offers. Thank you.